right, you guys, this lesson is on reflections, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, okay, so we're going to graph the line y equals x on this graph right here. Okay, y equals x is the same as y equals 1x plus 0. Okay, there's nothing right there, so it's plus 0. So let's go ahead and graph the plus 0 first right there. There's that right there, going through 0, 0. Then we're going to use this slope. I'm going to make that 1 over 1, and I'm going to go up 1 over 1 and make another point. Up 1 over 1. Okay, then I'm going to connect those 2 points right there. Okay, and I usually graph y equals x in a green line right there, and that's going to be a reflection line in just a little bit, you guys, okay? So there's the y-axis right there, okay? We're going to reflect over the y-axis also in this lesson, and we're also going to reflect over this x-axis right there, so there's the x-axis right there. Okay, reflections are like a mirror image. So here's the rules for reflections, you guys. If we reflect the ordered pair xy over the line that we just did, y equals x, its reflection, or its image it's called, you just flip the coordinates. Instead of x comma y, they get flipped to y comma x, and we'll talk more about that. If we reflect it over the x-axis, your x stays the same, but you change the sign of your y coordinate. So it stays x comma, but this becomes negative y. If we do it over the y-axis, then we change the x to negative x, and the y stays the same, okay? So when it goes over the y-axis, I'll show you an example of both of those. And finally, when we reflect it over y equals negative x, okay, if we flip these points, x, y, they become yx, but you negate them. You put negatives with them. Okay, I have examples of all of those coming up. All right, so let's graph this point 5 comma negative 3, and then we'll reflect it across the y-axis and label that reflection point D. Okay, let's graph that point first. Okay, so over 5 down 3. So I went over 5 down 3. There's A right there. Okay, now here's the rules right here, you guys. We're going to reflect it over the y-axis, you guys. So to reflect it over the y-axis, we just opposite sign for the x. The y stays the same. So I'm going to change this sign to negative 5, and this is going to be still negative 3. The y stays the same. The x changes sign. So this positive 5 changes to negative 5, and this negative 3 stays the same. So my reflection point is going to be negative 5, negative 3. So negative 5 means to the left 5 and then down 3. So there it is right there. All right, now here's the y-axis right here. Pretend like that's a mirror right there. Or pretend like it's on your piece of paper and you can fold it right in half. If I can fold it right down that line, this reflection point would fold right on top of that point right there. And that's what a reflection is. It's your folding point where this point would fold right over there. Also, if I could, and I'm not going to have you do this on the test, I'll erase this in just a second, but if you could, draw this line right here. This line right here is always perpendicular to your reflection point, so there would be a right angle right there, and then not only that, it bisects it. That piece always equals that piece right there. Okay, don't worry about that. I'll take those off. I don't want you to worry about that, but it's always the perpendicular bisector if we did all that. Okay, so this is my folding line when I reflect it. Okay, so we just follow these rules. If we're reflecting it over the y-axis, then you just change the x to the opposite x. Okay, let's do that again. Let's go to graph the point 3, negative 5 this time and reflect it across the x-axis. Okay, we'll label that point F, and then we reflect that guy across the y-axis. So we're going to do a double reflection here. All right, so here's this point, over 3 down 5, over 3 down 5. There it is right there. Now we're going to reflect it across the x-axis. Okay, remember, over the x-axis, we just changed the y sign. So the x stays the same, the y changes. So it's going to be 3 comma positive 5. So over 3 up 5. Okay, so there it is right there. All right, over 3 up 5. And can you see this x-axis? If I folded it right in half, this guy would fold right up on top of that guy right there. And I don't want to draw it, but if I drew that line, it would be perpendicular to my reflection line right there. Okay, so the ordered pair is at 3, 5. Okay, now it says then reflect F over the y-axis. So here's my y-axis thing. So I'm going to change this guy to negative 3, and this guy stays the same. So I'm going to reflect this point and over the y-axis, and the y-axis says use negative x comma y. So it's going to be negative this x, and the y stays the same. So negative 3, 5. Negative 3, 5, and can you see if I folded the y-axis, my reflection line, folded it right there, G would fold right over there on F. Sorry, my finger's making my cursor go all over. Okay, now let's graph the line again. I have a fire going on. It's a cold December night, so when you hear that snap, crackle, and popping stuff, that's my fire in my living room here. So it's like 6 o'clock tonight. So here's y equals x. We've done that before right there. Okay. Now let's graph the point 2 comma 5. So over 2 up 5. There it is right there. There's w. Okay. And then we're going to reflect w across the line y equals x. Okay. Now remember, when we reflect over the line y equals x, we just flip the ordered pairs. So this 2 comma 5 is going to be 5 comma 2. Okay, so k is going to be 5 comma 2. So over 5 up 2. Now can you see, if I can fold it right in half down this green line right here, that this red point would fold right over there on k. And if I could draw a straight line right there, it would be a right angle. It would be perpendicular right here. There would be a little right angle right here. And this side would equal this side right here if I did it correctly, okay? All right, so now let's graph the line y equals negative x. Okay, remember, there's like a plus 0 right here, so it's going through 0, 0, and this negative is negative 1 over 1. So from 0, 0, I'm going to go down 1 to the right 1, down 1 to the right 1. So I got a line that's going like this. Here's y equals negative x right there, okay? All right, and then let's graph negative 2, 7. We'll call that point S. So over back to the left 2, up 7. All right, and then we're going to reflect it over the line y equals negative x. Okay, remember when I reflect it over the line y equals negative x, this ordered pair flips around and the y's and x's flip around and they both become negatives. So I'm going to flip this negative 2 to over here and flip this 7 to over here and change the signs of them both. So it's going to be negative 7, positive 2. Okay, so negative 7 is to the left 7, up 2. Okay, and can you see if I folded it right down that line right there, T would fold right on top of S. All right, okay, you guys, take care.